The first thing Simone Harper noticed was her wedding photo in the trash pile. The frame was cracked, glass shattered, her smiling face visible through the broken pieces. It sat on top of a heap of her clothes, her books, her shoes, all dumped carelessly on the front lawn of the house she had called home for 8 years. Neighbors were stopping their evening walks to stare. Some pulled out phones to record. Simone sat frozen in her car in the driveway, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. The locks had been changed. She could see that from here. The golden deadbolt she had picked out 3 years ago was gone, replaced with silver hardware that gleamed mockingly in the afternoon sun. Her key, still attached to the keychain her mother had given her before she died, would be useless now. Brandon appeared in the doorway. Her husband of 8 years. The man she had supported through business school, through his failed startup attempts, through his father's death and his brother's addiction struggles. He stood there in a crisp white shirt she had ironed last week, looking at her with an expression she had never seen before. Cold. Dismissive. Like she was a problem he had finally solved. "You need to take your stuff and leave," he called out, not even having the decency to walk down to her car. Simone got out slowly, her legs shaking. "Brandon, what is this? What's happening?" "What's happening is I'm done," he said, crossing his arms. "Done pretending. Done carrying dead weight. Done with a wife who never contributed anything to this marriage." The words hit like slaps. "Dead weight? Brandon, I worked 2 jobs to put you through business school. I gave up my career plans so you could pursue yours. I took care of your mother when she was sick. I've been here for everything." "Yeah, and what do you have to show for it?" He laughed, a harsh sound that made her flinch. "No career. No money of your own. No accomplishments. You've been riding on my success for years." A movement behind him caught Simone's eye. A woman appeared in the doorway. Young, blonde, wearing one of Simone's robes. Brittany Knox. Brandon's secretary. The woman Simone had met at company parties, had made small talk with, had never suspected. "Brandon, baby, are you coming back to bed?" Brittany asked, wrapping her arms around his waist with exaggerated affection. Simone felt her world tilt. "How long? Does it matter?" Brandon shrugged. "Brittany makes me happy. She's ambitious, successful, going places. She doesn't just sit around the house all day like some people." "I sit around the house because you asked me to quit my job," Simone said, her voice breaking. "You said you wanted me home, that you were making enough money for both of us, that we were trying for a baby." "Well, plans change," he cut her off. "My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce. Make sure you're out of here in the next hour or I'm calling the police for trespassing." He turned and walked back inside with Brittany, shutting the door with a finality that echoed across the lawn. Simone stood there, aware of neighbors watching, phone still recording, waiting to see what she would do. She wanted to scream. To pound on the door. To demand answers. But what would that accomplish? He had made his choice. He had planned this humiliation. He wanted her to break down publicly. She wouldn't give him that satisfaction. Moving mechanically, Simone began loading her belongings into her car. 8 years of marriage fit surprisingly easily into a small sedan. Most of the furniture had been his before they married. Most of the decorations had been purchased with his credit card, even if she had picked them out. Her entire contribution to the home she had maintained, the life she had built, filled 6 garbage bags and 2 suitcases. Mrs. Patterson from next door approached hesitantly. "Honey, are you okay? Do you need to call someone?" "I'm fine," Simone lied, throwing another bag into her trunk. "Thank you. Where will you go?" That was the question, wasn't it? Simone's mother had died when she was in college. Her father had passed away 2 years ago. She had no siblings. Brandon had slowly isolated her from her friends over the years, claiming they were bad influences or too demanding of her time. She had no job. The checking account they shared was in his name. She had exactly $73 in her wallet and a quarter tank of gas in her car. "I'll figure it out," Simone said, slamming the trunk closed. She got in her car and drove, no destination in mind, just away from that house and those watching eyes and the man who had just destroyed her life without a second thought. Tears blurred her vision. She pulled into a park, parked under a tree and let herself cry. When the tears finally stopped, Simone looked at her reflection in the rearview mirror. Red eyes. Smeared makeup. Hair a mess. This was not who she wanted to be. This was not how her story would end. She opened her wallet, looking at her pitiful cash supply, when something fell out. A bank card. Old, the magnetic strip worn, the plastic scratched. She had forgotten about this card. Her father had given it to her 10 years ago, shortly before his diagnosis. He had pressed it into her hand with unusual intensity. Keep this safe, Simone. Don't use it unless you really need it. When the time comes, you'll know. Use it for your future, not your past. Promise me. She had promised, confused by his seriousness. Her father had been a quiet man, an accountant, someone who lived simply and never talked about money. She had assumed the card had maybe a few $100s on it, an emergency fund he had set aside. She had kept it in her wallet all these years, never thinking to use it even when times were tight because her father had made her promise to save it for a real emergency. Well, this was a real emergency. Simone looked up the nearest branch of First National Bank, the name embossed on the card. She wiped her face, straightened her hair as best she could, and drove across town. The bank was still open, though it would close in 30 minutes. The lobby was mostly empty. A single teller looked up as Simone approached. I need to check the balance on this account, Simone said, sliding the card across the counter. The teller, a young man with glasses, took the card and swiped it. He typed something. His expression changed. He looked at the card again. Looked at his screen. Looked at Simone. Can you please wait one moment? He said, his voice shaky. He got up and walked quickly to an office in the back. Through the glass walls, Simone could see him talking urgently to an older man in a suit. The man stood up fast, nearly knocking over his coffee. This was it. The card was expired. Or closed. Or flagged for fraud because it hadn't been used in so long. Of course her father's emergency fund wouldn't work when she actually needed it. Of course the universe would have one more kick saved for her today. The older man rushed out of the office, the young teller following. Ms. Harper? The older man asked. Yes, Simone said tiredly. I'm Robert Harrison, the branch manager. Could you please come to my office? Simone followed, carrying her purse, wondering if they were calling the police. Mr. Harrison closed the door behind them and gestured to a chair. The young teller stood by the door, looking like he had seen a ghost. Ms. Harper, we need to verify your identity, Mr. Harrison said, sitting behind his desk. Do you have your driver's license? Simone handed it over. He studied it carefully, comparing her face to the photo. He typed on his computer. The young teller was actually sweating. And this card was given to you by Raymond Mitchell? Mr. Harrison asked. Yes, my father. He passed away 2 years ago. Mr. Harrison nodded slowly. He turned his computer screen toward her. Ms. Harper, when was the last time you checked this account? Never, Simone admitted. My father told me to save it for an emergency. I never needed to use it before today. Mr. Harrison exchanged a look with the young teller. Ms. Harper, your father set up this account very carefully. It was designed to transfer automatically to you upon his death, but it required you to physically present the card to activate your access. Until you walked in today, the account has been sitting dormant, earning interest, waiting for you. Okay, Simone said slowly. How much is in there? A few $100s? The young teller made a choking sound. Mr. Harrison pointed to the screen. Ms. Harper, the current balance is $47,238,412.17. For a long moment, Simone didn't understand the words. They were in English. She knew what each word meant individually. But together they made no sense. I'm sorry, what? $47 million, Mr. Harrison repeated. Your father was an extremely successful investor. He lived modestly, but he built wealth through very smart investments over 40 years. He set up this account so that everything would go to you when you needed it most. The young teller, unable to contain himself any longer, let out a small scream of disbelief. Simone stared at the number on the screen. All those zeros. She counted them twice. 3 times. Her father, who had lived in a small house and driven a 15-year-old car and clipped coupons and never took vacations, had been worth $47 million. And he had left it all to her. For her future, not her past, he had said. Brandon's face flashed through her mind. The way he had smirked at her. The way he had called her dead weight. The way he had thrown her out like garbage. Simone started laughing. She couldn't help it. The young teller looked alarmed, but Mr. Harrison smiled slightly, like he understood. Ms. Harper, would you like to discuss your options for managing this account? He asked gently. Simone wiped tears from her eyes, but these were different tears than the ones she had cried in the park. Yes, she said, sitting up straighter. Yes, I would. I have a lot of plans to make. Simone spent 2 hours in Robert Harrison's office, learning about her father's financial legacy. Raymond Mitchell had started with nothing, worked as an accountant for 40 years, and invested every spare dollar with exceptional skill. Tech stocks in the 90s. Real estate before the boom. Getting out of markets before crashes. Buying low, selling high, reinvesting earnings. Compound interest over decades. Your father was brilliant, Mr. Harrison explained, pulling up charts and documents. He never hired a financial advisor. He did all his own research, made his own decisions. And he was almost never wrong. Why didn't he tell me? Simone asked, still processing. Why did he live like he had no money? I asked him that once, Mr. Harrison said. He came in every quarter to review his portfolio. He told me that money doesn't make you happy. People make you happy. Purpose makes you happy. He said he had everything he needed. His house was paid off. His daughter was healthy and smart. He had friends and hobbies and a good life. What would more money buy him? But he wanted you to have options he never had. Security. Freedom. The ability to build whatever life you wanted. Simone felt tears threatening again. Her father had been a quiet man who showed love through actions, not words. Making her breakfast before school. Teaching her to fix the car. Sitting through every school play and graduation. And apparently, secretly building her an empire. The account has been structured very carefully, Mr. Harrison continued. The principal is protected in various trusts and investments. You have immediate access to $5 million in liquid funds. The rest can be liquidated or invested as you choose, but I'd strongly recommend meeting with our wealth management team before making any major decisions. $5 million in immediate access. Simone tried to wrap her mind around it. I'll need to set up new accounts, she said. Checking, savings, credit cards. Everything separate from my husband. Soon to be ex-husband, I hope, Mr. Harrison said. His expression was kind but firm. I saw your wedding ring. I noticed you looked upset when you came in. Miss Harper, I've been a banker for 30 years. I've seen what happens when one spouse doesn't know about money and the other spouse takes advantage. Whatever situation you're in, you now have the power to change it. The young teller, whose name was Dennis, had stayed for the entire meeting, apparently too fascinated to leave even though his shift had ended. If my wife kicked me out, I'd buy the house and evict her, he offered. Dennis, Mr. Harrison said warningly. No, it's okay, Simone said. Actually, that's not a bad idea. They set up her new accounts. Personal checking with a deposit of $50,000. Savings with $2 million. Credit card with a $100,000 limit. Mr. Harrison gave her his personal cell phone number and the contact information for Patricia Thompson, the bank's head of wealth management. Call me anytime, he said as they shook hands. Your father was a valued client and a good man. Taking care of his daughter is an honor. Simone left the bank at 7 in the evening. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. She sat in her car looking at her new wallet. New bank card. New credit card. New life. She pulled out her phone and searched for luxury hotels. The Preston, a 5-star hotel downtown, had availability. She booked a suite for a week at $700 a night and didn't even flinch at the price. The Preston's lobby was all marble and crystal chandeliers. Simone checked in with her new credit card, still wearing the same clothes she had thrown on that morning, still with smudged makeup and tangled hair. The desk clerk didn't bat an eye. Money apparently covered all manner of social graces. The suite was bigger than the bedroom she had shared with Brandon. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. A separate living room. A bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. Fluffy robes and expensive toiletries. Simone dropped her suitcases and sat on the bed, which was so soft it felt like a cloud. She ordered room service. Filet mignon, lobster tail, chocolate cake, and a bottle of wine. It arrived on a cart with actual silver serving dishes. The food was incredible. Simone ate slowly, savoring every bite, drinking wine and watching the city lights come on below. Then she ran a bath, poured in half a bottle of lavender bath oil, and soaked until her skin pruned and her muscles finally relaxed. Clean and warm in a hotel robe, Simone opened her laptop. She needed a lawyer. A good one. She searched for the top divorce attorneys in the city and found Margaret Brennan, a woman with a reputation for being ruthless and expensive. Perfect. Simone sent an email requesting a consultation and included her phone number. The response came back in 15 minutes. Margaret Brennan would see her tomorrow at 10. Next, Simone searched for private investigators. She wanted to know everything about Brandon and Brittany. What they had been doing. For how long. Where they went. What they spent. Everything. She found Patricia Chen's agency, which specialized in infidelity cases. 5-star reviews. Simone sent an inquiry. Patricia Chen herself called within 10 minutes. Ms. Harper? You're looking for investigation services? My husband kicked me out today, Simone said. He's been having an affair with his secretary. I want to know everything. How long it's been going on. Where they go. What he's been hiding. I want evidence for my divorce. I can do that, Patricia said. My retainer is $5,000 and I charge $200 an hour plus expenses. That's fine, Simone said. Can you start tomorrow? There was a pause. You're serious? Completely. All right then. I'll send over a contract tonight. Miss Harper, I have to ask. Are you safe? Do you have somewhere to stay? I'm at the Preston, Simone said. I'm safe. Another pause. The Preston. Okay. You're definitely safe. I'll email the contract and start work first thing tomorrow. Simone hung up and smiled. She was building a team. A lawyer. An investigator. Tomorrow she would meet with Patricia Thompson about managing her money. She would buy clothes and shoes and everything else she needed. But tonight, she would sleep in a comfortable bed in a beautiful room, knowing that she never had to depend on Brandon for anything ever again. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You better not cause trouble in the divorce. You have no money for lawyers. Be smart and just sign whatever papers I send. You don't want to make this ugly. Brandon. Simone read it twice. Then she laughed out loud. She deleted the text without responding. Let him think she was broke and powerless. Let him think he had won. She would show him the truth soon enough. Simone woke up in her hotel suite to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the sound of the city waking up below. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back. Brandon. The affair. The eviction. And the $47 million. She sat up, half expecting it all to be a dream. But her new bank card was on the nightstand, real and solid. She checked her phone. A text from the hotel concierge asking if she needed anything. An email from Patricia Chen with the investigation contract attached. Another email from Margaret Brennan confirming their 10 o'clock appointment. Real. All of it was real. Simone ordered breakfast from room service and ate while reviewing Patricia's contract. It was straightforward. Sign here, pay the retainer, receive updates every 48 hours unless something urgent came up. She signed electronically and transferred the retainer from her new checking account. $5,000. 3 weeks ago that amount would have been impossible. Now it was nothing. At 9 Simone went shopping. She walked into a boutique she had always admired but never entered, where a single dress cost more than her old monthly grocery budget. The saleswoman, a tall woman named Donna, took one look at Simone's disheveled appearance and her expression cooled. Can I help you? She asked in a tone that clearly meant, can you afford to be here? I need a complete wardrobe, Simone said calmly. Business suits for meetings. Casual clothes. Accessories. Everything. Donna's eyebrow raised. Our pieces start at $800. That's fine, Simone said, pulling out her credit card. I have a lawyer meeting in an hour, so let's start with business attire. 2 hours and $15,000 later, Simone left the boutique wearing a navy blue suit that fit perfectly, carrying multiple shopping bags to her car. Donna had been much friendlier after the first purchase went through. Margaret Brennan's office was in a steel and glass building downtown. The reception area was decorated in black and white, modern and intimidating. Simone gave her name to the receptionist and was immediately ushered into a corner office with a view of the river. Margaret Brennan was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and silver hair pulled back in a perfect bun. She stood to shake Simone's hand with a grip like iron. Miss Harper. Please sit. Tell me about your situation. Simone laid it out. 8 years of marriage. Brandon's affair with his secretary. Being locked out of the house with her belongings thrown on the lawn. His text message demanding she sign papers without a fight. Margaret listened without interrupting, taking occasional notes. Do you have proof of the affair? She asked when Simone finished. I hired a private investigator yesterday. She's gathering evidence now. Good. Assets. The house is in both our names. We bought it 6 years ago. He has a car, I have a car. Joint checking account with about $20,000 in it. He makes $150,000 a year at his company. I haven't worked in 3 years. So he'll argue you should get alimony, Margaret said. He'll say you're unemployed and dependent on him. Actually, I have my own money now, Simone said. My father passed away 2 years ago and left me an inheritance. I just got access to it yesterday. How much? $47 million. Margaret's pen stopped moving. She looked up slowly. I'm sorry, how much? $47 million. It was in a trust that activated when I used the access card my father gave me. The bank confirmed it yesterday. Margaret set down her pen. A smile spread across her face. Ms. Harper, I think I'm going to enjoy this case very much. Your husband has no claim to your inheritance, especially since your father died before this marital trouble started. In fact, with you having independent wealth, he can't claim you need alimony. We can push for a fast, clean divorce where you walk away with half the marital assets and he gets nothing from your inheritance. What about the house? Do you want it? Simone thought about it. That house held 8 years of memories, most of them lies, apparently. Brandon and Brittany were there right now, probably in the bed Simone had picked out, using sheets she had washed. No, she said. I want half its value. He can keep it or sell it. I don't care. Fair enough. My retainer is $25,000. My hourly rate is $750. I'll draft divorce papers and have them served to him by Friday. Fast, clean, and brutal. He won't know what hit him. Simone signed the retainer agreement and wrote the check without hesitation. Back at the hotel, she had messages from Patricia Chin. Call me when you get this. Found something interesting. Simone called immediately. That was fast, she said when Patricia answered. Your husband isn't very careful, Patricia said. I've been following him for less than 24 hours and I already have photos of him and Brittany at 3 different restaurants, 1 hotel, and an apartment complex in the business district. The apartment is registered to a shell company, but I traced it back to payments from your husband's business credit card. He's been paying for her apartment? For 18 months, Patricia confirmed. That's not all. I pulled his credit card records. He's been buying expensive gifts, paying for trips, dining at 5-star restaurants, all on his business credit card. We're talking about $70,000 in the last year alone. $70,000? Simone felt cold. His company lets him spend that much? I doubt his company knows about it, Patricia said. This looks like embezzlement. He's been coding personal expenses as business expenses. Client dinners that were actually dates with Brittany. Business trips that were romantic getaways. Company equipment that's actually jewelry and designer bags. Simone sat down hard. He's stealing from his company? It sure looks that way. I can get more details, but this is enough to cause him serious problems if it came out. Do you want me to keep digging? Yes, Simone said. I want to know everything. Every expense, every lie, every place he's been. You've got it? I'll have a full report in a week. After hanging up, Simone sat staring out the window. Brandon wasn't just a cheater. He was a thief. He was committing fraud. And he had the nerve to call her dead weight? Her phone rang. Margaret Brennan. Quick question, the lawyer said. Do you want this divorce to be amicable or do you want to destroy him? Simone thought about Brandon's smirk. His cruelty. The way he had humiliated her in front of the neighbors. The way he had texted her threats last night. I want the truth to come out, she said. Whatever that means. Good, Margaret said. Because I just found out his company is family-owned. His uncle is the CEO. If your husband has been embezzling, they'll want to know. And they'll be very grateful to whoever tells them. How grateful? Grateful enough to make sure he never works in this industry again, Margaret said. But that's your call. We can just do the divorce and walk away clean. Or we can make sure he faces consequences for everything he's done. Simone closed her eyes. Part of her wanted to just be done with Brandon. To take her money and her freedom and never think about him again. But another part of her, the part that had spent 8 years making his life easier while he planned to betray her, wanted justice. Let's wait for Patricia's full report, Simone said. Then we'll decide. Fair enough. I'll have divorce papers ready by Thursday. You're going to be free of him very soon. That evening, Simone met with Patricia Thompson, the bank's wealth manager. Patricia was a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a firm handshake. Mr. Harrison told me about your situation, Patricia said. First, let me say how sorry I am about your father. Second, congratulations on your freedom. Both from grief and from a bad marriage. They spent 3 hours going over investment strategies, tax implications, and financial planning. Patricia recommended keeping most of the money invested in diverse holdings, stocks, bonds, real estate, some in safer accounts, some in growth opportunities. You're young, Patricia said. This money could triple in 20 years if managed well. Or you could live very comfortably off the interest and never touch the principal. It's up to you. I want to start a business, Simone said. I have a degree in computer science. I always wanted to do tech consulting, but Brandon said it was too risky. How much would you need to start? 2 million maybe? For office space, equipment, hiring staff, operating costs for the first year. Patricia smiled. That's very reasonable. I'll set up a business account for you. Miss Harper, you're in a position most people only dream about. You have the money to build whatever life you want. Don't waste it on revenge. Use it for creation. Simone nodded, but inside she thought, why not both? 3 days after being kicked out of her house, Simone Harper founded Clarity Tech Solutions. She hired a business consultant named Gerald Morrison who helped her file all the paperwork, create a business plan, and set up the corporate structure. She leased office space in a modern building downtown, 3,000 square feet with glass walls, open floor plan, and a view of the city skyline. The furniture arrived on Monday. Ergonomic chairs, standing desks, top-of-the-line computers, 3 conference rooms, a kitchen area with an espresso machine that cost more than her first car. Simone stood in the middle of her new office and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Pride. She hired her first employee on Tuesday. Monica Price, a talented software developer who had been laid off from a tech giant 6 months ago. Monica walked into the bright, modern office and her eyes went wide. This is incredible, Monica said. How long have you been in business? 4 days, Simone admitted. You'd be employee number 1. Help me build something amazing. Monica started the next day. By Friday, Simone had a team of 5. Monica on development. James Carter on systems architecture. Lisa Wong on project management. David Green on sales. Tina Martinez on operations. All talented people who had been overlooked or undervalued at previous companies. I can't promise this will work, Simone told them at their first team meeting. But I can promise you'll be treated with respect, paid well, and given room to innovate. We're going to build something that matters. Her team looked at her like she had hung the moon. Simone focused on what she knew best, helping companies optimize their technology infrastructure. She offered consulting on cybersecurity, data management, and systems integration. Her prices were competitive but not cheap. She wasn't trying to undercut anyone. She was trying to provide value. Her first client came through David, who had contacts at a medical supply company struggling with outdated inventory systems. Simone pitched them on a complete overhaul. They hired her on the spot. The project fee, $200,000. Her second client was a restaurant chain that needed help with their online ordering platform. Another $150,000. Her third client was the one that made Simone smile. Apex Technologies, Brandon's biggest competitor. She pitched them in a glass-walled conference room, her team presenting solutions for their data security problems. The Apex CEO, Jonathan Wright, listened carefully. This is exactly what we need, he said. But I have to ask, why us? You're new in the market. You could start with smaller clients and build up. I believe in starting strong, Simone said. And I believe Apex is positioned to dominate this market if you have the right support systems. Jonathan smiled. I like your confidence. You're hired. $300,000 for the initial project, with potential for ongoing support. They shook hands. As Simone left, she allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Brandon worked for Titan Corporation. Apex was Titan's main rival. She was literally helping his competition. That evening, Patricia Chin called with an update. I have the full report, Patricia said. Are you sitting down? Should I be? Your husband has embezzled approximately $240,000 over the past 3 years. I have receipts, credit card statements, travel records, everything. He's been running personal expenses through the company. Brittany's apartment, gifts, trips to Hawaii, Cancun, and Miami, designer clothes, jewelry, even a car. A car? A BMW. Registered to the company, but she's the one driving it. He coded it as a company vehicle for client transportation. Simone closed her eyes. What happens if this comes out? He'll be fired. Possibly prosecuted. The company could sue him for repayment. He could face jail time depending on how the company wants to handle it. And if it doesn't come out? He keeps stealing. Keeps lying. Eventually someone else notices or he gets greedy and gets caught anyway. But on his timeline, not yours. Simone thought about it. She thought about Brandon's text message telling her not to make trouble. She thought about him calling her dead weight. She thought about Brittany wearing her robe in her house. Send the evidence to Margaret Brennan, Simone said. Let her decide the best way to use it. You got it. The next morning Margaret called. I have Patricia's report, she said. This is substantial evidence of fraud. I can use it in the divorce to show bad faith and illegal activity. But I can also send it to his company. Or the police. What do you want? Simone looked out her office window. Her team was working below, building something real. She had spent 3 weeks building a new life. She had a successful company, money in the bank, a future full of possibilities. Brandon still thought she was broke and desperate. Send it to his company, Simone said. Anonymously. Let them investigate. Let them decide what to do. But make sure our divorce papers mention you have evidence of financial impropriety during the marriage. I want him to know, but I want his company to be the one to punish him. You're devious, Margaret said, approval in her voice. I like it. I'll send the evidence to Titan Corp's board of directors today. Anonymous email untraceable. They'll launch an internal investigation within hours. And the divorce papers? Being served to him tomorrow afternoon. He's going to have a very bad day. Simone hung up and smiled. That afternoon she signed the lease on a penthouse apartment. 22nd floor, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a balcony with a view of the entire city. Modern kitchen, floor-to-ceiling windows, a building with a gym, pool and 24-hour security. She moved in that weekend with nothing but her clothes and a few personal items. She bought new furniture, new dishes, new everything. Nothing from her old life. Everything fresh and new and hers. Sunday evening she stood on her balcony watching the sunset, drinking wine, and feeling peace settle over her like a blanket. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. What did you do? What did you send to my company? Call me immediately. Brandon. Simone deleted it without responding. Her lawyer would handle it from here. Brandon Harper sat in his office at Titan Corp on Monday morning, sipping coffee and reviewing client files, when his assistant knocked on the door. Mr. Harper? Mr. Fisher wants to see you immediately. Daniel Fisher was the CEO and Brandon's uncle. Immediate meetings were never good. Brandon straightened his tie and walked down the hall to the executive suite. His uncle's secretary waved him through without her usual smile. Daniel Fisher sat behind his massive desk, his face grave. Beside him sat Helen Martinez, the company's head of legal, and Timothy Brooks, the CFO. Sit down, Brandon, Daniel said. Brandon sat, trying to appear calm. What's this about? The board received an anonymous report over the weekend, Helen said, opening a folder. It contained detailed evidence of financial irregularities in your expense reports over the past 3 years. Brandon's stomach dropped. What kind of irregularities? Timothy slid a spreadsheet across the desk. $240,000 in fraudulent expenses. Personal trips coded as business travel. Gifts for your girlfriend coded as client entertainment. An apartment coded as temporary housing for visiting consultants. A car coded as company transport. Should I go on? This is a mistake, Brandon said, his voice shaking. Someone is trying to frame me. We have credit card receipts, Helen said. Hotel records. Rental agreements. Photos of you and a woman who is not your wife at these locations. The evidence is extensive and detailed. Who would have access to this information? Brandon's mind raced. Simone. It had to be Simone. But how? She had no money. No resources. No way to hire investigators or lawyers. Unless she had money now. But how? We're suspending you without pay pending a full investigation, Daniel said, his disappointment evident. You're to clear out your desk today and surrender your company credit cards, laptop, and phone. Do not contact any clients. Do not access company systems. Do not speak to anyone about this. If the investigation confirms fraud, we will terminate you and pursue criminal charges. Uncle Daniel, please, Brandon started. Don't, Daniel cut him off. Your family, which makes this worse, not better. You betrayed the company. You stole from us. You lied to my face for years. Get out of my office. Brandon stumbled out, his legs weak. His assistant avoided eye contact. Word had already spread. By the time he reached his office, people were whispering, staring. He grabbed his personal items, shoving them into a box. His hands were shaking. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. His phone buzzed. A text from Brittany. Did you get fired? Are the rumors true? Call me. He called her. She answered on the first ring. Brandon, what's going on? People are saying you embezzled money. It's not true, he said, though they both knew it was. Someone sent false information to the company. They suspended me. Without pay. It's temporary. Until the investigation is finished. How long will that take? I don't know. A few weeks maybe. There was a long silence. Brandon, I can't afford my apartment without your help. The car payment is due next week. I'll figure something out, he said, though he had no idea how. You better, Brittany said and hung up. Brandon carried his box to his car, passing former colleagues who pretended not to see him. He drove home, pulled into the driveway and sat there trying to process what had happened. His phone rang. An unknown number. Mr. Harper? This is Margaret Brennan. I'm Simone Harper's attorney. You're being served divorce papers today. A courier will arrive within the hour. Simone hired a lawyer? Brandon said stupidly. She doesn't have money for lawyers. She has plenty of money, Margaret said coolly. The divorce papers cite your infidelity and financial impropriety during the marriage. We're asking for a clean split of marital assets and no alimony for either party. Sign the papers and this will be over quickly. Fight us and we'll make sure every detail of your affair and your fraud becomes public record. She hung up. Brandon sat in his car, his world crumbling. Suspended from work. Divorce papers coming. Simone somehow had money and lawyers and evidence. The courier arrived 20 minutes later. Brandon signed for the envelope with shaking hands. The divorce papers were thick, formal, and devastating. Margaret Brennan's name was on the letterhead. One of the most expensive divorce lawyers in the city. How was Simone paying for this? The papers outlined it all. Division of marital assets. No spousal support for either party. Fast dissolution. And a note that Simone's legal team had evidence of financial impropriety during the marriage that could be submitted to the court if necessary. Brandon called Simone's number. It went straight to voicemail. He tried 3 more times. Same result. He texted her. We need to talk. Please. No response. Inside the house, Brittany was on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up when he came in. Did you get served? She asked. Yeah. So it's really over with her? Yeah. Brittany studied him. What are we going to do about money? I need the car payment. The apartment rent is due in 2 weeks. You promised you would take care of me. I will, Brandon said. I just need time to figure this out. How much time? Because I have bills, Brandon. I have a life. I can't just sit around waiting for you to get your act together. Brandon looked at the woman he had given up his marriage for. The woman he had stolen for. And he saw for the first time that she didn't actually care about him. She cared about the money. The lifestyle. The gifts. I need to make some calls, he said, going to his office and closing the door. He called his lawyer. Left a voicemail. He called his uncle. Got his secretary who said Mr. Fisher wasn't taking his calls. He called 3 friends. 2 didn't answer. One said he had heard about the suspension and couldn't talk right now. Brandon sat at his desk, the divorce papers in front of him, and realized he was completely alone. Meanwhile, across town, Simone sat in her office reviewing a proposal for a new client. Monica knocked on her door. Simone? There's a reporter calling. Says they heard about a major embezzlement case at Titan Corp and want to comment. Tell them I don't know what they're talking about, Simone said calmly. And Monica? No more calls from reporters. You got it. Simone went back to her work. Let Brandon deal with reporters. Let him deal with his company. Let him deal with Brittany. She had a business to run. The divorce hearing was set for 6 weeks after Brandon was served papers. Simone arrived at the courthouse with Margaret Brennan, wearing a gray suit and carrying a leather briefcase. She looked professional, calm, and completely in control. Brandon arrived with his lawyer, Thomas Wheeler, looking haggard. He had lost weight. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His suit was wrinkled. They sat on opposite sides of the courtroom, not looking at each other. Judge Patricia Morrison reviewed the case files. This should be straightforward, she said. Both parties agree to divorce. The question is asset division and whether either party requires spousal support. Thomas Wheeler stood. Your Honor, my client requests spousal support from Mrs. Harper. He has been suspended from his job pending an investigation and has no income. Mrs. Harper has clearly come into money and is living in a luxury apartment and running a business. My client contributed to the marriage and deserves support during this difficult time. Simone kept her expression neutral. Margaret had told her this was coming. Margaret stood. Your Honor, Mrs. Harper's current financial situation comes entirely from an inheritance from her late father. Money that was held in trust and only became accessible after her father's death, which occurred during the marriage but before any marital troubles. This inheritance is not marital property. Mr. Harper has no claim to it. The money became accessible during the marriage, Thomas argued. It should be considered marital property. The money was left to Mrs. Harper specifically, Margaret countered, in a trust designed to transfer only to her. Mr. Harper's name appears nowhere in the documentation. Furthermore, Your Honor, Mr. Harper is not actually unable to work. He's under investigation at his current company, but he's free to seek employment elsewhere. His financial situation is the result of his own choices, specifically his decision to embezzle company funds to support an extramarital affair. Thomas's face reddened. That's an allegation, not a proven fact. Margaret pulled out a folder. I have evidence if needed, Your Honor. Credit card statements, receipts, photographs. Mr. Harper spent over $240,000 of company money on his girlfriend over 3 years. He's currently under investigation for fraud. His company has already confirmed the suspension. If we need to present this evidence in open court, we can. Judge Morrison held up her hand. That won't be necessary for these proceedings. Mr. Wheeler, your client's employment troubles are not Mrs. Harper's responsibility. The inheritance is clearly separate property. I'm denying the request for spousal support. Brandon slumped in his chair. Now, regarding asset division, the judge continued. You have a house purchased during the marriage? Yes, Your Honor, Margaret said. Purchased 6 years ago for $400,000. Current value approximately $550,000. Remaining mortgage of $150,000. Mrs. Harper wants half the equity? Yes, Your Honor. $200,000. Mr. Harper can keep the house and refinance to buy out her share, or they can sell it and split the proceeds. The judge looked at Brandon's lawyer. Mr. Wheeler? Thomas stood. My client requests to keep the house. He'll refinance to pay Mrs. Harper her share. Fine, the judge said. Any other assets? 2 vehicles, Margaret said. Each party keeps their own. A joint checking account with $22,000. My client requests half. Agreed, Thomas said quickly. Any retirement accounts? The judge asked. Mr. Harper has a 401k worth approximately $80,000, Margaret said. Mrs. Harper requests half the marital portion. They went through the details. Everything split down the middle. Clean and simple. Within 30 minutes, the judge had made her rulings. The marriage is dissolved, Judge Morrison said. Mr. Harper has 60 days to refinance and pay Mrs. Harper her share of the house equity. Both parties are free to remarry. This court is adjourned. It was over. Simone stood and walked out without looking at Brandon. In the hallway, Margaret smiled. You're officially free, she said. Congratulations. Thank you, Simone said. For everything. My pleasure. He tried to claim you owed him money. Instead, he owes you $200,000. That's what I call justice. Simone shook her hand and left the courthouse. Outside, the sun was shining. She breathed deep, feeling lighter than she had in years. No more Brandon. No more lies. No more pretending. She was free. That evening, Patricia Chen called with news. Titan Corp officially fired Brandon today, she said. They're pursuing criminal charges for embezzlement. The DA is reviewing the case. Brittany is cooperating with investigators to avoid being charged as an accomplice. She's giving them everything. Where they went. What he bought her. All of it. How is he handling it? Simone asked, then wondered why she cared. Not well, according to my sources. He sold his car to pay bills. Brittany left him the day after he was fired. He's living alone in that house, but not for long since he has to sell it to pay you your share. Simone felt a small twinge of something. Not sympathy exactly. Just acknowledgement that a person's life was falling apart. But he had done this to himself. Thanks for the update, Simone said. No problem. Want me to keep monitoring? No, Simone said. I'm done. Whatever happens to him happens. I don't need to know about it anymore. Understood. It's been a pleasure working with you. Simone hung up and looked around her penthouse. Comfortable furniture she had picked out. Art on the wall she had chosen. A life she had built from nothing in 6 weeks. She opened her laptop and checked her business email. Clarity Tech had 3 new client inquiries. Her team was finishing up the Apex project ahead of schedule. Her revenue for the first quarter was projected at over $1 million. She was building something real. Something that mattered. Brandon was her past. This was her future. The news broke 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized. Former Titan Corp executive charged with embezzlement, read the headline in the business section. Brandon Harper, former senior account manager at Titan Corp, was formally charged with embezzling $242,000 from the company over 3 years. The article detailed the scheme: fake expense reports, fraudulent business trips, company assets diverted for personal use. Titan Corp was suing for full restitution plus damages. The criminal charges could mean up to 10 years in prison. Simone read the article in her office, her morning coffee growing cold. She felt nothing. No satisfaction. No anger. Just a distant acknowledgement that consequences had arrived. Her assistant knocked. Simone? Your 10 o'clock is here. Simone closed the browser and stood. Business called. Clarity Tech had grown to 15 employees. They had moved to larger office space. The original 3,000 square foot space now housed just the executive team and conference rooms. They had leased the floor below for development and operations. Monthly revenue had hit $2 million. They had 12 active clients and a waiting list of companies wanting their services. Simone had been featured in Tech Business Monthly as Emerging Entrepreneur to Watch. The article talked about her innovative approach to cybersecurity consulting and her focus on building a people-first company culture. She hadn't mentioned Brandon once. The article said she was divorced and focused on building her business. That was all anyone needed to know. Her 10 o'clock meeting was with Jonathan Wright from Apex Technologies. Simone, he said, shaking her hand warmly. I wanted to deliver the news personally. The board approved the contract extension. Another year, $5 million. You've become essential to our operations. $5 million. Simone smiled. Thank you, Jonathan. We appreciate your trust. We appreciate your results, he said. Since you implemented the new security protocols, our data breaches dropped to 0. Our system efficiency increased by 30%. You've saved us more money than you've cost us. After he left, Simone sat at her desk looking out over the city. 2 years ago, she had been a housewife with no job and no prospects. Brandon had told her she contributed nothing, that she was dead weight. Now she ran a multi-million-dollar company. She had her own money, her own success, her own life. The irony wasn't lost on her. That afternoon, her lawyer called. Simone, I have news about Brandon, Margaret said. He couldn't refinance the house to pay you. No bank would approve him with the criminal charges. He had to sell it. You'll get your $200,000 within a week. Where is he living? An apartment across town. Small. He's working at a call center while he waits for trial. Brittany filed a lawsuit against him for fraud, claiming he promised to support her and then left her with debt. She's suing him? For $50,000. She probably won't win, but it's another legal headache for him. Simone closed her eyes. Margaret, I don't want updates anymore. He's not my problem. Understood. I'll send the check when the house sale closes. After that, you never have to think about him again. But that evening, Simone did think about him. She thought about the man she had married, the dreams they had shared, the future they had planned. All of it had been a lie. Or maybe it had been real once and then stopped being real and she just hadn't noticed. Either way, it was over now. She poured a glass of wine and stood on her balcony, watching the city lights come on. Her phone buzzed. A text from Monica. Team dinner tomorrow to celebrate the Apex contract? I'm thinking that new Italian place downtown. Simone smiled and texted back. Perfect. I'll make reservations. These people, her team, they were her family now. They had built something together. They celebrated each other's wins. They supported each other through challenges. This was what family looked like. The next evening, Simone sat at a table with 15 people, laughing over pasta and wine, listening to James tell a ridiculous story about a coding error that had nearly crashed a client's entire system. But Simone caught it, James said, raising his glass. 5 minutes before launch. She reviewed the code one more time and spotted the bug. Saved us all. To Simone, the table chorused, glasses raised. Simone felt her throat tighten with emotion. These people respected her, valued her, saw her contributions. This was what she had been missing. This was what mattered. After dinner, she walked back to her car, full and happy. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then curiosity won. Hello? Simone? It's Brandon. She froze. How did you get this number? I still have friends, he said. His voice was rough, tired. I need to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about. Please. Just 5 minutes. I need to explain. Explain what? Simone interrupted. That you cheated? That you stole? That you threw me out like trash? I know all of that, Brandon. What else is there? I'm sorry, he said, and he sounded like he meant it. I was wrong. About everything. I was arrogant and stupid and I hurt you for no reason. You didn't deserve any of it. Simone leaned against her car. You're right. I didn't. I'm going to prison, he said. My lawyer says probably 3 years. Everything I built is gone. Brittany is suing me. My family won't speak to me. I have nothing left. And you're telling me this why? I don't know, he admitted. Maybe because you're the only person who ever actually cared about me. The only person who was real. I was real, Simone said. You weren't. There was silence on the line. I know I have no right to ask, Brandon said finally. But could you help me? Not money. Just maybe talk to the prosecutor. Tell them I'm not a bad person. That I made mistakes but I'm not. No, Simone said. Simone, please. You called me dead weight, Simone said. You humiliated me in front of our neighbors. You threw my stuff on the lawn and changed the locks. You texted me threats. You tried to take everything from me in the divorce. And now you want me to help you? I was wrong, he said desperately. I know I was wrong. You were worse than wrong, Simone said. You were cruel. And I'm not cruel, Brandon. So I'm not going to help you. But I'm also not going to hurt you anymore. You're doing that perfectly well yourself. Lose my number. Don't call me again. She hung up and blocked the number. For a moment she stood there, hands shaking. Then she got in her car and drove home. She had been right to refuse. He didn't deserve her help. He didn't deserve her mercy. He had made his choices. Now he lived with them. And she would live with hers. 6 months after her divorce, Simone celebrated her 34th birthday at a restaurant with her closest friends, Monica from work, Patricia the investigator who had become a friend, and 2 women from her book club who she had reconnected with after years apart. To Simone, Monica said, raising her champagne glass. The best boss, the best friend, and proof that sometimes life's worst moments lead to the best outcomes. They clinked glasses and drank. The food was excellent. The conversation was better. Simone felt surrounded by people who genuinely cared about her. After dinner they went to a charity gala for women in technology. Simone had bought a table and invited her team. The event raised money for coding programs for girls in underserved communities. Simone had donated $50,000 and was scheduled to speak about building a career after setbacks. She stood at the podium looking out at 200 faces and told a version of her story. She didn't name Brandon. She didn't go into details. She just talked about rebuilding after a difficult divorce, about finding strength in unexpected places, about the importance of community and support. I thought I had lost everything, she said. My marriage, my home, my identity. I thought I was starting from zero. But I wasn't starting from zero. I was starting from me. And that was enough. The applause was warm and genuine. After her speech, people came up to thank her, to share their own stories, to ask about her company. Simone exchanged business cards, made connections, built relationships. During a break, she stepped outside for air. The night was cool, the city beautiful and bright. Good speech, a man's voice said. She turned. A man in his late 30s stood nearby, tall and handsome with kind eyes and an easy smile. He wore a well-tailored suit and held a glass of wine. Thank you, Simone said. I'm Julian Torres, he said, extending his hand. I'm an architect. My firm designed the new community center in the downtown district. Simone Harper, she said, shaking his hand. I run Clarity Tech Solutions. I know, he said. I read the profile in Tech Business Monthly. Very impressive. They talked for 20 minutes. About architecture and technology. About the city's growth and the challenges of building businesses. About the charity and why they both supported it. Julian was easy to talk to. Intelligent without being arrogant. Interested without being pushy. He made her laugh twice. Would you like to have coffee sometime? He asked when the break ended. I'd love to hear more about your business. I think there might be some opportunities for collaboration. My firm needs better tech infrastructure. I'd like that, Simone said, surprised by how much she meant it. They exchanged cards. She went back inside feeling lighter. Monica caught up with her. Who was that? Julian Torres. An architect. An architect who couldn't stop looking at you, Monica said with a grin. It's just business, Simone said. Sure it is, Monica said, not believing her for a second. The coffee meeting happened 3 days later. They met at a quiet cafe downtown and talked for 2 hours. Not just about business. About everything. Books they had read. Places they wanted to travel. Family and friends and dreams for the future. Julian had been divorced for 3 years. No kids. No drama. He had built his architectural firm from the ground up and was proud of what he had created. It sounds like we have similar stories, he said. Building something new after something else fell apart. Maybe that's the best time to build, Simone said. When you know exactly what you don't want. They agreed to meet again. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a weekend trip to a nearby winery. Simone took things slowly. She wasn't ready to rush into anything. But Julian was patient. He respected her boundaries. He never pushed. He just showed up, consistently and genuinely, as a friend who might become something more when the time was right. Meanwhile, Clarity Tech continued to grow. Simone hired a COO to handle daily operations so she could focus on strategy and new business development. She opened a second office in a neighboring city. Revenue hit $5 million a quarter. She bought a house. Not a mansion. Just a comfortable 3-bedroom in a good neighborhood with a yard and a porch. She furnished it herself, choosing every piece with care. This was her space. Her sanctuary. She started the Raymond Mitchell Foundation with $5 million from her inheritance. The foundation provided grants and loans to women starting businesses, with a focus on women over 30 who were rebuilding their lives. The first year they helped 40 women. Simone read every application personally. She met with many of the recipients, offering advice and mentorship. One woman, Lisa, had been divorced after 20 years of marriage and had no work experience. The foundation gave her a loan to start a catering business. Within 6 months she was profitable and had hired 3 employees. "You changed my life," Lisa told Simone, tears in her eyes. "No," Simone said gently. "You changed your life. I just gave you a tool to work with." That was what her father had done for her. Given her a tool. The money was just a tool. What mattered was what she did with it. 8 months after meeting Julian, they had dinner at her house. Simone cooked, something she had learned to enjoy again. Pasta with homemade sauce, salad, good wine. After dinner they sat on her porch watching the sunset. "I like spending time with you," Julian said. "I like who I am when I'm with you." "I like spending time with you too," Simone admitted. "Is there a future here?" he asked gently. "Or are we just friends?" Simone thought about it. She thought about trust and fear and hope and second chances. "I think there could be a future," she said. "But I need it to be slow. I need it to be real. No games. No secrets. Just honest people building something honest." "I can do that," Julian said, taking her hand. "I want to do that." They sat together, holding hands, watching the day end and thinking about what might begin. Simone hadn't thought about Brandon in months. She was too busy living her life to waste time on the past. Then one Tuesday morning her receptionist called. "Simone, there's a man here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment. He says his name is Brandon Harper and he needs to talk to you urgently." Simone felt ice in her stomach. "Tell security to escort him out. He says he won't leave until you talk to him. He's causing a scene in the lobby." Simone stood up, anger flashing through her. "I'll be right there." She took the elevator down to the ground floor. Through the glass doors she could see Brandon in the lobby. He looked terrible. Thinner, older, desperate. He wore cheap clothes and needed a haircut. Security stood nearby, waiting for her signal. Simone walked out. "Brandon, you need to leave." "Please," he said. "Just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." "You have 2 minutes," she said. "Talk." He looked around at the people watching, her employees, building security, random people in the lobby. "Can we go somewhere private?" "No. You have 90 seconds now." Brandon's face crumpled. "I'm going to prison tomorrow. 3 years. I came to say goodbye and to ask for your help one last time. I told you I won't help you." "I know. But I'm not asking for character witnesses or lawyers anymore. I just need money. $10,000. That's all. Just to make sure I have something in my account for when I get out. Something to start over with." Simone stared at him. "You want me to give you money?" "Loan it to me," he said quickly. "I'll pay you back. I swear. When I get out, I'll get a job and pay you back with interest. You have 30 seconds. Simone, please. You have millions. $10,000 is nothing to you. I have nothing. No family. No friends. No money. Brittany took everything. The lawyers took everything. I'll be alone in prison for 3 years and then I'll come out to nothing. I'm begging you." "Time's up," Simone said. She turned to security. "Please escort Mr. Harper out of the building. If he returns, call the police." "Simone." Brandon grabbed her arm. Security moved fast, pulling him away. Simone stepped back. "You owe me." Brandon shouted as security dragged him toward the door. "I gave you 8 years of my life. I made you who you are." Simone felt something inside her snap. "Stop," she told security. They stopped. Brandon looked at her with desperate hope. Simone walked closer to him, close enough that only he could hear her clearly. "You want to know what you gave me?" she said quietly. "Nothing. You took from me. You took my time, my confidence, my trust. You isolated me from my friends. You convinced me I was worthless without you. You controlled my life and then you threw me away like trash when you found someone new. I was wrong, he started. You were worse than wrong, Simone interrupted. You were cruel. You humiliated me on purpose. You enjoyed it. I saw you smiling that day, Brandon. You liked hurting me. I didn't. And now you want me to save you? Now you want me to give you money so you can have a fresh start? You who tried to take everything from me in the divorce. You who called me dead weight. You who stole from your own company to impress another woman. I made mistakes, he said, tears running down his face. You made choices, Simone corrected. Every single thing you did was a choice. You chose to cheat. You chose to steal. You chose to be cruel. And now you're facing the consequences of your choices. That's not my problem. That's justice. I have nothing, he whispered. You threw me out with nothing, Simone said. You thought it was funny. You thought I would fail. You wanted me to fail. So no, Brandon. I won't give you money. I won't give you help. I won't give you mercy. You don't get to destroy someone's life and then ask them to fix yours. What am I supposed to do? He asked, his voice breaking. I don't know, Simone said. And I don't care. You're not my husband anymore. You're not my friend. You're not my responsibility. You're just a stranger who made very bad choices. Go serve your time. Figure out your life. But do it without me. She turned to security. Get him out of here. They escorted Brandon to the door. He was crying openly now, still trying to talk, but Simone had already turned away. She went back to her office and closed the door. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was pounding. But she felt no guilt, no regret. She had given him her answer. The only answer he deserved. That evening Julian came over. They had plans for dinner, but one look at her face and he suggested they just stay in. Rough day? He asked as they sat on her couch. Brandon showed up at my office, Simone said. He's going to prison tomorrow. He wanted money. Did you give it to him? No. Julian nodded. Good. He said I owe him. That he made me who I am. That's ridiculous, Julian said. You made yourself who you are. He just got out of the way. Simone leaned against him. I told him I don't care what happens to him. Is that terrible? No, Julian said firmly. It's honest. He hurt you. He tried to destroy you. You don't owe him anything. I don't feel bad about saying no, Simone said. Is that terrible? That's healthy, Julian said. You set a boundary. You protected yourself. That's not cruel. That's necessary. They sat in comfortable silence. Julian didn't push her to talk more. He just stayed close, solid and steady. Thank you, Simone said finally. For being here. Always, he said. Later that night, Simone stood on her balcony, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Brandon was spending his last night before prison. He was probably scared. Probably alone. She felt nothing for him. Not hate. Not pity. Nothing. He was her past. A chapter that had closed. This, her business, her foundation, her friends, Julian, her life, this was her present and her future. And it was more than enough. 1 year after Brandon had thrown her out, Simone Harper stood in her company's new headquarters, looking out at a view that stretched across the entire city. Clarity Tech Solutions now occupied 3 floors of a downtown building. 50 employees. Clients across the country. Annual revenue of $25 million. Forbes had named her one of 30 women transforming tech. Her foundation had helped 300 women start businesses. Her personal net worth had grown to over $60 million through smart investments and business success. The house she had been kicked out of? She owned the building now. She had bought it through a holding company 6 months ago. Brandon's landlord, she learned later. The irony was delicious. But she never thought about Brandon anymore. He was serving his sentence somewhere. In 2 years he would be released. She didn't care. Today was her birthday. 35 years old. She was celebrating with the people who mattered. Her team had thrown her a surprise party in the main conference room. Cake, champagne, speeches about how she had changed their lives. Monica stood up to toast. A year ago, Simone took a chance on me when no one else would. She gave me a job, yes. But more than that, she gave me respect and trust and room to grow. She built a company where people matter more than profits. Where we celebrate each other. Where we're a family. To Simone, the best boss and the best friend I've ever had. Everyone raised their glasses. Simone felt tears in her eyes. After the party, Julian picked her up for dinner. They had been together for 10 months now, taking it slow but steady. No games. No secrets. Just honest affection and genuine respect. He had met her friends. She had met his family. They talked about future plans without fear. It was real and it was good. Where are we going? Simone asked as they drove. It's a surprise, Julian said. They ended up at the rooftop restaurant where they had first had coffee. But tonight the entire space had been reserved. String lights hung overhead. A small table sat in the center, set with candles and flowers. Julian, what is this? Simone asked. Your birthday dinner, he said, pulling out her chair. I wanted it to be special. The food was incredible. The wine was perfect. The conversation flowed easily as it always did with Julian. After dessert, Julian reached across the table and took her hand. I know we're taking things slow, he said. And I respect that. I'm not rushing you. But I want you to know something. I love you, Simone. I love your strength and your kindness and your brilliant mind. I love how you turn pain into purpose. I love how you build people up instead of tearing them down. I love who you are and who I am with you. Simone felt her heart swell. I love you too. I know you're not ready for anything official, Julian continued. And that's okay. I just wanted you to know that I'm here. When you're ready, if you're ready, I'm here. Simone looked at this man who had been patient and kind and real with her, who had never pushed or demanded or tried to control her, who celebrated her success instead of feeling threatened by it. I'm ready, she said. Not for marriage. Not yet. But I'm ready to build a future with you. To see where this goes. To let myself trust again. Julian smiled, his eyes bright. That's all I'm asking for. They stayed on that rooftop until late, talking about dreams and plans and possibilities. When Simone got home that night, she stood in her beautiful house that she had bought with her own money, surrounded by furniture she had chosen and art she had collected, and felt complete peace. A year ago, she had thought her life was over. Brandon had destroyed everything she knew. He had humiliated her. He had left her with nothing. Except he hadn't left her with nothing. He had left her with herself. And that had been enough. She had rebuilt from the ground up. She had created a business, a foundation, a community, a life. Not because of anyone's help. Because of her own strength and her father's gift and her refusal to stay down. Her phone buzzed. A text from Monica. Did you see the news? Brandon was released early for good behavior. He's out of prison. Simone stared at the text. For a moment, old fear tried to creep in. Would he contact her? Would he try to cause trouble? Then she remembered who she was now. What she had built. How far she had come. Brandon couldn't hurt her anymore. She was too strong. Too successful. Too protected by people who actually cared about her. She texted back. Good for him. I hope he figures out his life. And she meant it. Not out of forgiveness. Not out of compassion. Just out of complete indifference. He was irrelevant to her story now. Simone deleted the text and set her phone aside. She had a meeting tomorrow with a potential client. A speech to write for the foundation's annual gala. A dinner date with Julian on Friday. She had a life full of purpose and meaning and real connections. The best revenge, she had learned, wasn't destroying the person who hurt you. The best revenge was building something so amazing that they became completely irrelevant to your happiness. And she had done exactly that.